Palestinians, Qasem rockets fired from Gaza on innocent Israeli citizens without guidance systems, one of which killed 2 Palestinian kids, are clearly criminal acts. They're outside of the pale. And they're aiming at civilian population centers. That makes them murder weapons. Hopefully, the great epidemic of suicide bombers aimed at civilians gathered in pizza parlors, markets, and discotheques is coming to an end. I pray that the deaths of Palestinian children as well as Israeli children will cease. Those who truly work for human rights must appreciate that the Chinese takeover of Tibet, the countless deaths in Sri Lanka, Darfur, and yes, the American actions in Iraq have had more terrifying consequences than the object of the boycotters. I suggest to my fellow Americans that their first attention be given to the 100,000 Iraqis who were killed in the recent war, the 1.5 million refugees minimally who are now elsewhere in the Middle East. Of course, the United States generously took in 20,000, and the 2.7 million internally displaced within Iraq. Those are crimes. Start worrying here. Before you might boycott Israel, you might set your own house in order. None of this is to say that we should stop our criticism of Israel or the Palestinians in pressuring for change, but it should be done with the even-handedness that President Obama has advocated. Well, I see, how many, do I have 5 here? Sure. Okay. Well, I've got a few more things to say, and I better wrap them up as I go along to give Omar his due time. So I feel that Omar is doing good work. He's doing work in a nonviolent way, in a struggle in which Palestinians have often given particular honor to their shaheeds or martyrs, and in which Israelis give too much respect to their generals. I do want to briefly address his goals and many of those of some of his associates. He is a public advocate of a one-state solution. Now, he may say tonight that one can separate the act of boycotting from particular solutions. However, I think that the act flows directly into his preferred outcome. One of his Canadian associates, Henry Lowy, puts it this way: BDS will be an effective tactic if it is clearly linked to its strategic goal, the overthrow of the Zionist regime and its replacement by a regime of equality, one that permits the refugees to return. That means the end of Israel. Mr. Lowy means the end of Israel, the elimination of the only Jewish state in the world, using boycott as a tactic to accomplish that strategic end. The Palestinian campaign for the academic and cultural boycott of Israel significantly opposes dialogue groups. It opposes Seeds for Peace, which bring Israeli and Palestinian young people together. It opposes these mechanisms as a kind of a sham. That's beyond my comprehension. In any case, I'll leave it to you and to Omar himself to see if means and ends are separable. Omar talks about a lot of the groups that are supporting him, but I think far more relevant is what Israelis and Palestinians say in survey research. So what can we find out? I haven't been able to go to interview them, but many others have. And the most recent interviews and polls show 51% of Israelis opt for 2 states. 28% support the status quo. And among Israel's Palestinian citizens, 2/3 want a two-state outcome. In the occupied territories, 55% support two states, and only 21% support a one-state outcome. All right, so point number 3 is, and I'll get back to this in rebuttal time, is that we have to build an Israeli peace movement, help them in any way we can, and a boycott movement will not help them because all Israelis will unite against the boycott. If we can't, if all of us here in this room almost oppose a boycott of Gaza and seeing that Hamas and the people of Gaza, little Gaza, have not been brought to their knees, it's unimaginable to me how long, 10 years, 50 years, for a boycott to even possibly work. I'm not sure Israelis and Palestinians have that much time. And the fourth and last point that I wanted to get to is what's going on here in the United States. New initiatives are taking place. Even now, we may get another peace conference going under the initiative of President Obama. But what he needs is Jewish support. You're all aware, perhaps, of the recent book, The Israel Lobby, which details the enormous influence of the Israel lobby on U.S. foreign policy. I disagree with some of that, but even if we cut in half the perspective of the authors, we still have to say that it's an enormous problem. If we want to, and right now we have among American Jews a large number, not boycotters, but people who are coming together in an organization called J Street, more of which later, to counter the Israel lobby, to work for peace. But J Street and those who think like them, and that's the vast majority of American Jews, that will not be successful with a boycott movement.
Affirmative rebuttal, 10 minutes.
There's something basic here that's not being said in my colleague's presentation. What is democracy? If it's not equal rights, what is it? I mean, the very basic concept of a democracy or a liberal order